just barely catches it. Now Limon is going to try and overtake on Fonseca. Fonseca gives that one up, almost a little too wide there for Limon. Holds tough and sending it deep around the banking, and Shell Oil, he's going to take the spot back. Fonseca, that was a brilliant move. This is full drift here from the Japanese driver. Watch this. Unreal. That car should not be still going. That is just seat of your pants stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just kind of landed a little bit wrong for him, but fortunately, at least pointed in the right direction. This was crazy, though.
And hasn't been shaken, but man, they see close to that wall.
Look at it. Look at the oversteer. He looks to the inside. Michael tried to cover off. He's going to squeeze him down a little bit. Tries to open up the corner. Cut back and see if he can get the launch, and it's much quicker off. Oh, but he covers him down to the inside.
Oh my goodness, covers him down to the inside. I think there may have been a little bit of contact there, but Michael Johnson going to get the benefit of the draft here. You can see him closing down on the back of the 79. And there's the late move from Michael going down to the inside, trying to get into the braking zone.
The red mist is up for these two, and down into the braking. Can Johnson get it done? Yes, he does. Don't count out Travis. Tries to cut back. Goes the long way around. Nothing doing. No, he holds tight. He could try and get it in there. No, now he starts to fall back.
Starts to fall back. Going to try to send it a little bit on the outside of 15. Sometimes you can get a crossover there, but not going to work. He's going to have a wider line now into Turkey to try to carry a little bit more speed, but he's not going to find an easy way to try to get on by. And indeed, Michael Johnson just slides that car off the apex a little bit to prevent off any attack.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're going to give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much going to be a turnkey. So he's going to press start on his computer, and right after we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA. Treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
The penultimate round of a championship is always a tense one. It sets the stage for the decider, and everyone has to bring their A game to make sure they're in the best position possible. It's time to see who can stand the heat as we get ready for round 9 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hello everyone, I'm Reese Gardner. With me in the booth is Chris Phoebe. Behind the scenes is our director, Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. We're racing at Texas Motor Speedway tonight, a 1.5 mile oval that's been through a few changes in recent years. Let's see what makes it such a challenge.
Welcome to Texas Motor Speedway. They say everything's bigger in Texas, and TMS doesn't disappoint. Located 45 minutes northwest of downtown Dallas and just over 20 minutes north of downtown Fort Worth, Texas Motor Speedway opened back in February of 1996. Texas Motor Speedway has been a staple on the NASCAR and IndyCar circuits since the first major event was held here back in 1997. TMS is a 1.5-mile quad oval mirroring sister tracks in Atlanta and Charlotte, but what makes Texas unique is the varied banking. Turns 1 and 2 are banked at 20 degrees. Turns 3 and 4 are banked at 24 degrees, and that may not seem like much to you, but the reduction in banking combined with an abrupt exit angle in turn 2 makes the first half of the track among the trickiest in oval racing. Many an iRacer have seen their race come to an end after bouncing off the turn 2 wall. Now on the back half of the track, turns 3 and 4 make for some of the most intense and exciting wheel-to-wheel racing in the world, and have led to many memorable finishes in NASCAR and in IndyCar, including 2 of the 6 closest finishes in IndyCar history. The Lone Star Tower stands as one of the most visually stunning structures on the iRacing service. Located in Turn 2, this 10-story building is home to condominiums as well as office suites, and boy does it stand out under the picturesque setting Texas sun. Well, that's our look at Texas Motor Speedway. Now sit back, kick up your cowboy boots, and enjoy the show.
Well, Chris, I always love it when we come to race at Texas Motor Speedway. People like to call the 1.5 mile ovals cookie cutters, but thanks to the recent changes to Texas, it's anything but.
Yeah, the banking between 3 and 4 is different, but what's really going to be fun here is just the quality show these trucks have put on these 1.5 mile ovals all season long. If our last race at Kansas was any indication, this has all the potential in the world to be a barn burner. Look for a lot of passing around here. There's probably going to be more opportunities in 1 and 2 from driver mistakes, or 3 and 4 with basically outright pace differences. And pretty fresh surface here, so tires shouldn't be too big of an issue. But we'll see how this one plays out here at Texas Motor Speedway.
Tire life should also be helped by the fact that we are racing at night in this broadcast, which is brought to you by our great sponsors at the Precision Racing League like Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
And finally, the PRL NASCAR Truck Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Well, things have tightened up in the championship over the last couple of rounds. Richard Regan Jr. is on a pretty good roll at the moment, but Bradley Holly still leads by 12 points going into the second last round of the season. It's between those two for the Drivers' Championship, but have a look at third, even fourth on back, Chris. It's still mighty close between Cervantes, Zemke, Sink, and Kalen.
That's right. Richard Regan Jr. has been doing everything he can to make the championship attainable, but that battle from third back is definitely intense. And of course, you have on the team side, you have Overdrive Racing from the Whataback squad, really with a pretty healthy lead right now.
Yeah, you do, with back row, Next Level Racing a little bit closer on points, but they are starting to still be threatened by Car Ramrod. Daniel Knight has had a good run of results recently, so we'll see how that third place in the standings ends up looking. The race tonight is going to be running for 85 laps because it's a 1.5 mile oval. The drivers get 4 tyre sets total. Of course, they have to be careful of incidents because not only do they have to worry about a 24 incident limit, but also no spare truck. Got to take care out there, Chris.
That's right. Those limited tire sets sometimes make a change in strategy if cautions fall at the right time. And the fixed setup definitely evens the playing field, as we've spoken about before, so it's going to come down to who can adapt to the setup quickest.
Well, in the dying moments of practice, it is Bradley Holly who leads the standings, just 7 thousandths ahead of Richard Regan Jr., who put in a great lap towards the end of the session. Regan's just getting some drafting practice out there at the moment, and showing how easy it is to run side by side around this circuit. Of course, this track is different on both ends, going through turns 1 and 2 at the moment. I would say that the inside line is where you want to be, especially in 1 and 2.
That's right, especially with the younger age of the pavement out there. It does make the bottom line seem to be a little bit preferred, but over in 3 and 4 where the banking's a little steeper, I think you can make passes on the outside a little bit easier, which is nice because you have that run down to the line off of 4, and if you can get a good launch there, you can sometimes pull ahead to have the bottom down in 1 and 2.
Looking at the number 21 of Adam Young, he's done very well here. Adam Young is, of course, a Texan, and for a while he was P2 in practice. He's been bumped back to 5th, but he's still very much on the pace.
Well, I guess you could say he's the Yellow Rose of Texas today, trying to make something happen here in front of the hometown crowd.
I would say that Bradley Holly's thinking about much the same thing. And I'm thinking about Jim Westerfield as well. He is battling with Charles Sumner for 9th place in the standings. They are only separated by a single point. Considering that Westerfield's in 6th and Sumner's down there in 12th, I think that sets things up very well here for the number 35.
Yeah, Westerfield's had a fairly interesting season, a little bit up and a little bit down throughout, race after race, but he definitely has had a great battle with Charles Sumner, and Charles has had some outstanding performances this season, some pretty solid top 5 runs a couple times this year, and unfortunately he's had a few rough days as well, but still in contention for one of those top 10 spots.
Sumner doing some drafting practice with Colton Lane in the number 60 right now. Colton's a bit down in the standings in practice as things stand. Hasn't had the smoothest of seasons so far, but practicing pit entry, always a good idea at the end of practice. But oh dear, that looked to me like Adam Young exiting his box and making life a little bit more difficult for Colton Lane. Got to be careful of that. Danny Cervantes, meanwhile, in the number 25. He has had an excellent season. Controversial finish at Talladega saw us thinking that maybe his season would be derailed, but he's come back very strong. He currently sits in 4th in the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, he has been basically probably, I'd say, the 3rd best behind Holly and Regan this season. Those two have been in a class of their own, but Danny has been up there week in and week out, and we did have the controversy at Talladega, but that aside, Danny has been a worthy top 3 competitor this season.
Checking out the number 99 machine of Nicholas Short, a driver that I haven't seen in quite some time in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series, making a return to the series at Texas. Be interesting to see how he does. He's currently sitting down in 17th at the moment, but only a tenth and a bit off the pace. That's the final few seconds of practice done, and we can get into qualifying. Goes for 5 minutes. Every driver gets 2 laps to set their time on the grid. Now, Chris, what is the typical qualifying strategy that we might see at Texas? Being a 1.5 mile oval with very long turns, I would presume that that you do have to get up to pace very quickly. But would they approach this like a super speedway where you run high on the first lap to get some extra momentum?
I would hesitate to say that through 1 and 2, just with how shallow the banking is in comparison, but we saw it a little bit in practice, and it kind of took me off guard that a lot of guys were really working on running right up against the wall in 3 and 4. So I think we'll probably see that on the first lap, getting up to speed, just trying to get the momentum built up.
Well, Adam Young is wasting no time getting out on track. Let's see what he ends up doing in the last couple of turns here. Yes, indeed, he looks to be running reasonably high in 3 and 4 on his outlap, but won't be getting all of the speed up coming right out of the pits. I think we'll be seeing the second lap as the lap where the times really start counting. So Young starts his lap, and he's running a bit middle of the road there in turns 1 and 2, just trying to look after the tires for that big run on the second of our hot laps here. And the tires, they drop off very quickly in the NASCAR trucks, so preservation is the name of the game, and that's where Bradley Holly has traditionally been very strong. First lap for Adam Young, then across the line, 30.6, and that works out pretty nicely for him. We've been seeing times about 4/10 faster in practice, but of course that is with the draft, as Austin Hunter goes to P1. 30.559 is now the pace.
And that's a pretty solid lap. Obviously, we're seeing people slow down a little bit from what they ran in practice without the draft being available to them. Daniel Knight goes to the top of the charts, and he's been fast on and off this season too, so don't count him out. And Adam Young right back to the top of the charts as he closes out his second lap.
400s faster than Daniel Knight as Skip Gandy goes to P1. That is quite the surprise there. Gandy, of course, has shown that he has the pace to work things out here this season, but we haven't traditionally seen him near the top of the field. That could be very significant as Richard Regan Jr. enters the track. The outside chance for the championship at the moment. He said to us in interviews that he needs to really hope for a miracle to overcome Bradley Holly's points lead, small though it may be. Those guys are very close in points and close in a team sense as well. They're both part of the Waterback squads up at the front of the field. Holly is part of Overdrive Racing and Regan part of Next Level Racing. Starting his first lap in his Toyota Tundra, one of only 2 in the field, the other belonging to Daniel Knight.
And things have started to get a little chippy between Regan and Holly in the last couple weeks. They made some contact the other week at Kansas, and these two definitely are tooth and nail for this championship. Regan is really throwing everything he can to try to overcome, and Holly, in his typical Iceman type fashion, just seems to have his eyes focused forward. And even he, though, looked a little perturbed the other week.
Yes, Regan was mighty good at Kansas, goes all the way down to the white line in 3 and 4, trying to shorten the run to the line as much as possible. What kind of time can we expect here out of Richard Regan Jr.? It is a 30.256, 300ths ahead of Skip Gandy. That puts him P1.
But with that, you see Holly making his normal late entrance to the track. Typically does qualify later in the session, and we have him here in the final couple minutes to put a couple fast laps down.
All right, let's see how much of a fast lap we can expect from Bradley Holly across the line. He will come very shortly, and 20th place at the moment, 30.5. Let's see how much he can gain here on his second lap. We've seen times run about 2-3 tenths faster on the second lap so far, so I think Holly might be able to get pole position here. We ride on board with him through turns 3 and 4. See what he does coming out of 3 and 4, tries to shorten the run to the line as much as possible while keeping the wheels straight, and it's going to be a 30.3 from Bradley Holly. That is 5th place there, so that's pretty significant. Richard Regan on pole with Bradley Holly in 5th. Mike Richter runs a 30.4 on his first lap. In the dying moments of the session, he will not have time to get a second lap in. Nicholas Hunter, though, might just squeeze in down in 24th place in truck 109. Can he beat that 30.7? Across the line he goes, and doesn't look like he was able to get it done, unfortunately. So that is qualifying over, and man, what a session it was. This really sets things up for an exciting race at Texas Motor Speedway. The front row is going to be Richard Regan Jr. and Skip Gandy with his best qualifying performance of the season. Thomas Sink starts in 3rd alongside Jeff Evans in 4th. Bradley Holly and Colton Lane share the 3rd row. Mark Kalin, who got his first ever PRL win on Tuesday night in the GT4 and TCR series, starts alongside Adam Zemke, with Charles Sumner and Danny Cervantes rounding out the top 10.
Austin Hunter, a fairly strong performance there in 11th over Daniel Knight. Then row number 7 is going to be Jim Westerfield and the hometown hero Adam Young. Another Adam is right behind him in 15th, and Adam Shane with Mike Richter to his outside. Row number 9 will see CM Pennington and Zach Panzarella. And then Baron Hilton and Dylan Schmidt will close out our top 20 starters.
Eric Papineau and Dalton Geyer will share the 11th row. Then it's Stacy and Nicholas Hunter on the 12th row. Garrett Austin starts alongside Ryan Traver, 25th and 26th. And then we've got Nicholas Short and Mike Witt rounding out our 28-car field, with Witt and Short not taking part in qualifying. All right. This being a 1.5 mile oval, we can expect only one formation lap here behind the iRacing pace car, and in terms of cameras, we do have the full complement, as we usually do. Adam Young, who has shown great pace here at Texas, going to be starting quite well here, and will be having his full focus on his triple screen setup. We've also got Austin Hunter on cams as well, and typically for Austin Hunter, you will very easily be able to tell when we're looking at him. He's got a huge letters just behind him with his number to boot. You absolutely can't miss him. Richard Regan Jr. also on cams as well, one of the drivers running virtual reality here tonight, and we can be sure that he is staying hydrated. And Mark Kalin, as usual, with Terry Labonte watching over his shoulder, will be starting pretty well as well in the top 10. Looking forward to seeing how Kalin can do. Can he carry the momentum from his win on Tuesday night in the road course racing? What kind of result can we expect from him? And of course, Bradley Holly, championship leader. He has got the glasses on, he has got the focus on, and he'll be looking to try and work his way up to the front as soon as possible.
You gotta love the focus that Bradley has on his face. Just always looks like he's getting ready to file his taxes. Just can't even tell that he's at the least bit bothered.
Yes, of course. You'd think he's just working a desk job rather than racing in one of the most competitive championships we host here on at the PRL and on the global SimRacing channel. Lights off on the pace car. We'll be getting ready for the start very soon, and once again, a very significant qualifying performance for Skip Gandy. Going to be starting on the front row, and he'll probably be wanting to get down to the inside as soon as possible. He'll be hoping that Thomas Sink doesn't get a good start, but Sink will be coordinating with Richard Regan Jr. there on the inside row. Pace car dives into the pit lane, and we can get ready for the green flag here. Round 9 of 10. This is where the money is made. Regan waits for the green flag, and we are away. It's an even start from our two front rows here at Texas. but slightly more momentum there for Richard Regan Jr. as they come into turns 1 and 2 for the first time. Gandy's going to be staying middle of the road. He'll be hoping for a straighter exit and a good run onto the back stretch to get a run on Thomas Sink, and he does.
Yeah, that was a great exit off turn 2 for Skip Gandy. And Bradley Holly already breaking into the podium spots, gets underneath Thomas Sink. Sink struggled a little bit on the start and giving up a couple spots here, it looks like, but Holly very quick to march his way up through the field.
Kalen up to 4th as well. That's a very significant gain there for Mark, who had not the best of runs at Kansas last week. Dropped from 3rd to, I believe, 7th in the standings, and certainly needing to get some of that momentum back. Riding on board with Bradley Holly as we check back at Kalen. Have a look just behind there at Adam Zemke too in the bright blue machine that you can see from Bradley Holly's perspective. That is a fantastic run from the number 57, but Holly already on the charge as he sets the fastest lap so far.
As we get towards the end of the season with only 2 races left, counting this one, you got to think every single point matters. And Regan was able to shave another one off the margin between himself and Holly by virtue of his pole position. So Holly has to keep his eyes on the prize here, and if he wants to maintain that lead. And I do believe there's points on the table for fastest lap, and he turned that in the time before, but already being unseated by Mark Kalen.
Meanwhile, Thomas Sink there, you see in the number 48, is dropping down the order quite substantially, down 6 places as Colton Lane tries a move on Charles Sumner, maybe getting a little crossed up out of turns 1 and 2, facing up against Austin Hunter there behind him, but picking up the draft from Sumner and Sink. Let's see what he can do. We also briefly focused on Daniel Knight just a couple of moments ago, who sets the fastest lap. Well, that's convenient and well-timed. Knight doing his typical wonderful run in the race. Or not always the best driver when it comes to qualifying, but when the green flag drops, you can count on him to make up positions.
And this may be a type of race that kind of suits his style. He's one that admits that he's not the greatest on saving tires, but we have Bradley Holly now moving up into the 2nd spot, getting a nice little push from Mark Kalen there. And Kalen looks to follow him through past Skip Gandy.
And they end up achieving that. Have a look at how much wheel work is going on through the turns here. This being night conditions, the track is a little bit colder, and it can certainly play havoc with the stability of your truck. Track temp only 26 degrees Celsius, so not as cold as it could be, this being Texas after all. But you see that the drivers are dead. Oh, goodness gracious! Bradley Holly making contact with Richard Regan Jr. on the front stretch. Oh, this is big.
Well, we'll take a look back at that one, Reese. That was a little more excitement than I was ready for at this point.
Yeah, goodness. Usually we have to wait until about 20 laps in before we start seeing stuff like that. Holly getting an excellent run out of 3 and 4. Tries to go down to the inside of Regan on the front stretch, but Regan cuts back under. That's a fantastic save from Regan, and it almost gave Mark Kalen 2nd.
Now we think back to last week when there was a little bit of a similar moment between those two, and Holly was able to back out of it. I think that might be Bradley's way of saying, hey, we're not going to do that one again.
Yeah, of course. Well, both of the guys in the first couple of positions know that they can't afford to make any mistakes at this point. It's all about those last couple of races towards the championship trophy. But Holly right on the back of Regan now. His early race pace is proving to be fantastic. Regan, of course, not getting any assistance with no one in front of him to give him a draft. He's going to have to wait until the second half of the race potentially for that.
Well, we've reached that point in the initial laps where it seems like everyone's got things, for the most part, sorted out. Of course, as I say that, you have Holly once again all over the back of the 56.
A little bit of a high entry there from Mark Kalen. We'll see if he can hook up the late apex and try his best to make himself part of this top 3 battle. Gandy's still holding on to 4th, which is good to see, but to the inside goes Bradley Holly. And looks like he's managed to get that done cleanly. Richard Regan gives him room there on the inside. So there we go, Bradley Holly to the lead as we finish the 10th lap of 85 scheduled. Regan, of course, keeping an eye on everything with his virtual reality headset. He's not making it easy for Holly here, but looks like just with that inside line, Bradley Holly will secure the race lead for the time being. He's going to remain inside here coming into 3 and 4. A little bit of a bump from Regan, who's trying to follow him as closely as possible.
Yeah, Regan is definitely giving him absolutely no space for comfort. He is right to the back bumper, gets the nose inside. Oh gosh, that's getting dicey.
Yeah, it is. Well, Holly ran very high up the track there, and that allowed Regan to get up the inside, and Holly could be under a threat here for second. Will Mark Kalin push him here? He's obviously aware of the championship fight between these two, but just catches the apron a little bit unstable there for Mark Kalin, but he moves up into second place, gets that move completed. There's racing going on behind them as well between Daniel Knight and Danny Cervantes. Knight trying to get the move done on Skip Gandy a few turns ago was a little bit crossed up, and it looks like he's just lost that position to Cervantes, but the battle for the top 3 continues.
Yeah, Kalin able to get ahead of Holly at this point. And that's not going to make things any easier for Bradley there. Mark Kalin, no slouch behind the wheel, fresh off his first win the other night. And he's riding that huge wave of momentum, and I'm sure he wants another victory here today.
He's definitely making a good case for it here in the early stages, but now we're starting to get to the point where the tyres will really start dropping off. Even in these nighttime conditions, the tyres only last for about 3 or 4 laps at maximum pace before you get up to a second's worth of drop-off, maybe even more on these 1.5-mile ovals. Kalin in the draft of Regan, really making a case here for the lead.
Yeah, Kalin's done a great job being in the right place at the right time in this race. Up there, able to take advantage of the battle between Holly and Regan. And of course, it's hard to have a bad race when you have Texas Terry in Texas giving you advice.
Absolutely. Well, end of lap 15. And the fastest car on track last lap was Danny Cervantes, but as the drivers come across the line, it looks like fastest car on track award moves to Nicholas Short, who is making a fantastic run up the field. Remember, he didn't qualify. He's now up into 11th, 17 places up from where he started, and he's right in the thick of it, isn't he? Just behind Adam Zemke.
Yeah, he may have put himself on the back foot there, starting from the back of the field, but he is definitely impressing here all the way up almost into the top 10.
Look at Zemke there, trying to go around the outside of Colton Lane in turns 1 and 2. Zemke firing it in and staying alongside at the apex of the corners and continuing to get a very nice run out, but it doesn't look like he'll clear Colton before they get to turns 3 and 4. And, oh dear. It seems that Nicholas Short getting up the inside there of Colton Lane with a few technical issues, maybe a slight bump, side-by-side contact, and 3 and 4 as they make contact, and the caution is out. First one of the race, Nicholas Short slamming into the wall, and I think that might be his race done.
Well, it was definitely a good run while it lasted.
We'll check it out once again. Short blinking out of existence down the back stretch, which wouldn't have filled his rivals with that much confidence. He was able to get up the inside of Colton Lane, but moving up the track, coming out of 3 and 4, Lane was trying his best to maintain his line.
Yeah, it looks like, unfortunately, the 99 just not quite clear there as he went to clear himself and caught Colton Lane's bumper and unfortunately went for quite a ride.
We'll check out that ride from the perspective of Charles Sumner. Would have had to get on the brakes rather quick here, dive down to the inside, and man, I'm just happy that no other trucks were involved in that, because that had potential to be a very big incident. As we go back to live pictures, the pretty much the entire field has made their way into the pit lane, so this is going to be a battle of the pit crews.
And we've had a couple drivers that have really excelled this season on pit road. So I'm excited to see how the race off pit road happens. You can see the trucks going up, getting 4 fresh tires. And they'll be driving off here in just a moment.
Pretty good time to come in for tyres. Of course, it being a caution. Looks like Regan winning the race out of pit road with Kalen just behind him there. So the top 3 remain the same, but Daniel Knight and Danny Cervantes in 4th and 5th have managed to improve just a little bit there on pit road. But this being almost a quarter of the way into the race, it makes sense that you would take that initial set of rubber to that point. It seems there's been some problems in the pits for Mike Witt and Adam Young. Much longer pit stop times along with Mike Richter. So the last 3 trucks still out on track, running pit stops almost in the 30-second range.
Yeah, that is definitely a rough stop. And it's going to put you on the back foot once we get back racing, because you'll have to be at the end of the line.
Yeah, well, now it'll be up to them to try and make use of that fresh rubber that, of course, everyone else is on as well to try and move through the field. Looks like Richter had a bit of contact a little bit earlier. That left rear is looking a little substandard.
Yeah, and this is a track where aerodynamics are going to play a huge role. There is a lot of drafting that goes into a race here at Texas, and any damage to that body on the truck is basically going to be like hooking a boat anchor to the back of it.
Adam Young's come in for a second time, and I think from the back of the field that is a reasonable choice to make. If you're already at the back, you might as well jump back in and get a little bit more done, potentially in terms of repairs. Young is still in the car. Does look like tires were put on that Ford F-150, and he is now out, so he'll be able to catch back up to the field, I presume, by the time the pace car comes in, but they are on the back stretch, so the clock is ticking for Adam.
So pit stops are a little bit of a reset here, Reese. We got fresh rubber on all the trucks, and everybody's filled up. And you can see on there, Mark Kalen, 5 spots, Daniel Knight up 8. So a couple drivers making some big moves early on.
We'll see what kind of big moves are made here in the next green flag phase of the race here at Texas Motor Speedway. Regan waited until the green flag to go, and actually looks like he's gone a little bit earlier this time, changing things up a little and getting a good run on the rest of the field. Holly is going to get to the inside of Kalen and have a look at Daniel Knight. He is absolutely smashing his way forward. Right behind Holly as Holly makes a mistake. Rear end got loose on him. Loses a ton of momentum in the middle of turns 1 and 2. And he's going to fall all the way down to 6th with a very close battle here. 3 wide with Thomas Sink and Jeff Evans. Looks like they worked themselves out there, but that restart did not go to plan for Bradley Holly.
Yeah, maybe that might have been a bit of a cold tire moment, but the back end goes around on him on corner entry or corner exit. And he has to give up just so many spots. And you know, a driver that makes so little mistakes as Holly does, that's got to be absolutely eating away at him right now, as he has to now race his way back up to get to Regan.
All right, well, he's got Skip Gandy up ahead of him. We focus on Thomas Sink, who's facing a lot of pressure now from Adam Zemke. The starts have not gone very well for Thomas Sink so far tonight. Down into 8th place, and still trying to fight his way forward as best he can. Let's see if he can pick up a draft here off of Jeff Evans as Bradley Holly gets up the inside of Skip Gandy coming into turn 3. Gandy has had a very prescient state of mind this race. He knows that he's racing against some very esteemed company, and he's giving them a wide berth.
And while Skip Gandy does have Holly right on his back bumper, what a great race for Gandy so far today. I'm hoping to not throw a commentator's curse on him, but he's been in the top 5 for pretty much the whole duration of this race. And it's nice to see him have a good run. He's got one of the more fun names in this series, and glad to see him doing well.
I'm glad too, as Daniel Knight tries to put the chrome horn here on Danny Cervantes, dives up the inside into turns 1 and 2, but Cervantes firing it in, just trying to preserve some momentum in the initial phase of the corner, running a little bit high on the exit too. He will keep that position for the time being, but Daniel Knight is definitely the driver to watch. Not only was he the fastest driver last lap, he also still holds the fastest lap of the race. 30.205 is the pace that they'll want to beat. And he's really pressuring Cervantes, isn't he? They're actually catching up to Mark Kalin in second. Regan's still holding on to quite a substantial lead of over half a second. But looks like Kalin might be in a little bit of trouble here. Hasn't quite been able to pick up as much of a draft as the drivers behind.
And that's going to allow them to run him down very quick. He's done a good job so far making that truck wider and not allowing them through yet. But it's definitely allowed them to get right to his bumper.
That it has, and you see that Bradley Holly has made his way past Jeff Evans as well, back up into 6th now. And we'll be trying to catch up to Skip Gandy now, but we keep our focus here on Danny Cervantes and Daniel Knight. Cervantes a little bit defensive there going into turns 3 and 4. He's got to try and line something up here on Kalin. Does run a little bit high though in the latter phase of turn 4. Seems that has worked out well for them though, as they make their way through to start their 28th lap of 85. And the lead for Richard Regan has diminished now. It's at 0.2 of a second, so it looks like a 4-way battle for the lead of this race.
Yeah, as soon as Kalin got some help from behind, that gap closed right up. Was half a second at one point, and now less than 0.2 between him and Mark Kalin for the lead.
Knight once again up the inside of Cervantes, trying to get into the podium places, and will draw alongside coming into turns 1 and 2. Cervantes, though, seems to be very strong, running the middle line here through the first part of the circuit on board with Daniel Knight, and you can see how much momentum that gives Danny Cervantes with a slightly wider line out of the turn. And he's going to try and do the same here. Oh, a little bit of a squeeze there. Daniel Knight thought that the door was open, but it was rapidly shutting.
You know, one thing I've noticed, you can definitely tell this is the second to last race of the season. We've only had one real incident so far, but these drivers are not giving each other very much room. They're keeping it, for the most part, clean, but it seems like everyone's a little more aggressive and a little more elbows out than we typically see week to week in this series.
That squeeze has definitely disadvantaged Daniel Knight. It's allowed Skip Gandy to get by him. Gandy now back up into 4th place, and Bradley Holly's looking to try and follow him through. Oh, but once again... Oh dear, did I see a little bit of oversteer there for Daniel Knight? That was interesting. He's still got very good race pace, but as we ride on board here with Knight going for the move to try and get back by Skip Gandy, catch back up to Cervantes, Kalin and Regan at the front of the field. Looks like that move has been successful. Can Bradley Holly follow him through?
This setup does seem like it's a bit on the loose side. I mean, we watched earlier with Mark Kalin on board. These drivers are having to put in a fairly decent amount of steering input to keep these going straight. And we've seen quite a few trucks get really tail happy coming off the corners here. So it seems like these trucks, and of course also we have nighttime conditions just to add to it, but these trucks don't look particularly easy to drive tonight.
Yeah, Richard Regan will certainly be feeling it as Mark Kalin is now on his bumper into 1 and 2. 20 degrees of banking through here. A little bit flatter, more reliant on mechanical grip. Looks like Regan's managed to get a good exit, but I tell you what, he will certainly be feeling the pressure. And Cervantes just sitting behind them, not making any big moves towards the top 2 here. I think he's just in preservation mode at the moment, as Holly, now under threat here from Jeff Evans, could lose his position in the top 6. Holly has had no luck at all getting past Skip Gandy. It's been a mother of a defensive drive here from the number 20.
Yeah, I mean, Skip really hasn't turned a wheel wrong today. he's had some heavy hitters around him the entirety of the race, and he's really holding his own.
What can Bradley Holly do then to try and get by him? He's got a big queue of trucks behind, with Mark Kalin still all over his rear bumper. The trucks are using the middle line mainly for defense, and it's been working really well for the likes of Skip Gandy. But you can see that this pack here, with all of their battling, is starting to lose touch with the top four.
Yeah, unfortunately, he is losing some ground. He'll have to get past Gandy, and he may even need a little bit of help to get back up there. It's about a second between those groups right now.
Very close battle here with Gandy, Holly, Evans, Sink, Lane, and Zemke. Just behind, they have Hunter, Sumner, Papineau, and Westerfield just trailing off the back of them in 14th place. It's a very close battle here for the latter half of the top 10. Austin Hunter, with all of the pressure on him, Tropicana behind, and the track pass in front as he tries to get the draft on Adam Zemke, who's had a really good run of results here in the second half of the season. Very hard into turns 1 and 2. Can he pick up the throttle and get it done? Thomas Sink running high just up ahead, and once again, that is the proper defensive line here at Texas.
Yeah, you can see everyone running right near the bottom in 3 and 4, which was a little different than what we saw during the ending stages of practice, but right now looks like they're keeping a straight line, trying to keep the draft going here. It's not too aggressive from these drivers. You can see up a few trucks ahead, Jeff Evans now giving the outside a try.
Let's see if that works out for him versus Skip Gandy. It looks like Bradley Holly has managed to get past the number 20 and back into 5th place. So Holly will be hoping that this sets himself up well, but Evans is going to try and do the same thing. Just a little bit faster there around the outside in turns 3 and 4. Gandy not going to have an opportunity here to use that outside line to defend. Now the momentum is with the number 51 of Jeff Evans. Have a look at that. Very nice run onto the back stretch. Looks like that might almost be position gained there. He is ahead, and it looks like he could afford potentially to move down to the bottom, but Thomas Sink is starting to come back at them as well.
He sure is. Sink is right there going to the outside of Gandy as we head off into turn 1. Not a lot of drivers have been making passes in that upper groove, but, well, he's going to give it a shot.
Looks like it's going to work out very nicely for him. He's been practicing that line for a couple of laps now, and it seems that he has moved up. And Skip Gandy now is starting to drop as the tyres begin to drop off. Now it is Colton Lane round the outside of him, and with all these trucks as close together as they are, Gandy doesn't have an opportunity to get back onto the preferred line.
Yeah, he's basically getting freight trained around the outside there, and that is unfortunate, and it's so frustrating when you're behind the wheel. You know you've got to make a move, but every time you look up in the mirror, there's just another truck filling that gap.
Side by side between Austin Hunter and Eric Papineau. Papineau's had a good run here in the middle phase. He is up 10 places now, started in 21st and is now in 11th. And working out very nicely for Papineau, who's had a pretty good run over the last couple of rounds. Meanwhile, Daniel Knight has been making moves. He has just gotten up into 2nd. I saw him pass Cervantes up ahead when we were on board earlier, and now he's showing that once the tyres start to drop off, he's the driver to watch.
And you can see right there on Mark Kalin's face just how physical this race has been for these drivers. You can see him constantly making little corrections to that wheel, and that just shows how loose and borderline out of control these trucks have been. But Daniel Knight up ahead with Kalin following in his trail, so those two going to try to build up some momentum here. They got a pretty good gap between themselves and Richard Regan up in front, but these two may be dark horse picks for the win today.
We'll see what kind of pace they can run here on this previous lap. Regan with a 31.6. Daniel Knight and Mark Kalin also running 31.6s. Bradley Holly, the fastest truck on the circuit, in 5th place, 31.5. He's starting to take time out of these guys, and it looks like just in the background there, he might be lining up Danny Cervantes for a move as Kalin goes for it down the inside of Daniel Knight. Unsuccessful for the time being, but I think I just saw a little bit of a cross up there from Danny Cervantes. He has left himself open to an attack from Bradley Holly.
And Holly's going to walk right through the door there, gets to the bottom of Cervantes going into turn 1. And looks like he should just about have him clear as he drives off, and he's going to pull up in front and complete the pass.
So Bradley Holly up into 4th now, and not for the first time this race, gaining places on his qualifying spot. Now, considering that the caution came out around lap 18, lap 19, and we are now 25 laps into this green flag stint, possibility that we might start seeing green flag stops, which could really change things up.
Yeah, that would definitely add another wrinkle and another potential for something to go wrong for some of these drivers out there if we do see a second set of pit stops happening. But this is the longest they've been out there on a green flag run today, and we're definitely seeing some people that are falling off the cliff as far as tire wear goes.
Eric Papineau looking to get into the top 10 here as Adam Zemke runs high on the back stretch. But once again, it is the outside line that is the place to be. Papineau not having much luck in getting by the number 57, who has been able to win in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series in the past. Meanwhile, that looks significant just behind them. Charles Sumner and Jim Westerfield fighting for position. Remember, those guys were only separated by 1 point in the drivers' standings for 9th place, and it looks like that battle is going onto the track.
Yeah, it is a bit of a hornet's nest around there. You can see Sumner and Westerfield still duking it out, like you mentioned. Those drivers really tight in the point standings, and every position is a difference in points.
Westerfield not quite able to get by Sumner as quickly as he might be anticipating. Sumner running very high in turns 3 and 4, and it looks like he's just given that spot to Westerfield. So 9th place in the championship, still a possibility here for the driver of the number 35. And interesting to note that we haven't heard much from Adam Young since the last caution. Remember, he was running so well, but since coming in for those 2 stops under caution, it seems that the pace has been nowhere for him. It looks like the truck has been fully repaired there for Adam Young, but yeah, very interesting. He's just dropped off the back of the order.
Yeah, he's got some cosmetic damage on the right side, but nothing looks too extreme over there. Basically just some scrapes on it. So unfortunately a solid performance in practice and qualifying, not quite getting backed up here in the race. So wonder what might be ailing the 21 machine.
Well, that was Thomas Sink getting back into the top 6 now. Seems that when the tires have gone, Thomas Sink rises, and he's been able to work his way back up very nicely. He'll be hoping that he can get a good draft on Jeff Evans just up ahead on the ovals. The draft starts coming into effect from about 1.5 seconds back. So Thomas Sink definitely within range at the moment and starting to make up some of that time.
Oh, look at that, Danny Cervantes. He hit pit road. It almost looked like he wasn't necessarily intending to, but he has made it to pit road.
Oh, that was a bit of an adventure there for Mr. Cervantes. Don't know if contact was involved. It looked like he was slowing down to get into the pits and got a big whack in the rear from Skip Gandy. So first of our green flag stops here for Danny Cervantes, and it looks to me like about 15 seconds, 14.8 specifically is the time that he is going to have. And he'll come back out a lap down on the rest of the field. We'll get a replay of that very interesting pit entry there from Cervantes. Oh, there you go. That was a huge hit there from Skip Gandy behind. I think it's a miracle that Cervantes was able to pull it up. That said, did he speed on the way in? No, apparently not.
Yeah,
wow,
looks
so
like
that worked out well.
He was good on the pit entry, but wow, that was a hit.
Yeah, Skip Gandy's got some pretty substantial damage to his front end now, and he is rapidly dropping as we have more drivers now taking that flag into the lane. The likes of Austin Hunter, Adam Shane, Stacey Hunter, Richter, Nicholas Hunter, and Garrett Austin. We've also seen Thomas Sink, Mark Kalin, Colton Lane, Jim Westerfield into the lane, and going a little bit longer is Richard Regan Jr. He's followed in by Daniel Knight and Bradley Holly, who almost lose it on the way in. Charles Sumner staying out. He's going long here to try and get things done. But now we'll see how much of a difference a green flag stop is going to make here for the championship battle between Bradley Holly and Richard Regan.
They both get to their pit stalls pretty similar time. We watched the comparison here between Regan and Knight, who were the top two coming in.
Looks like a good stop for Daniel Knight there. Managed to move up into second there behind the leader, but it will be the cars who pitted earlier with the advantage. Someone is spun on the grass on the front stretch. It's Baron Hilton as Daniel Knight gets it done out of the lane. That's interesting to see there. Baron Hilton looks like he's decided to get it going again. Not too sure what happened to the 00 there.
Well, luckily we caught a replay of it here.
Nothing sus about it. He just exited his pit box and then went straight onto the grass. That's very odd to see.
Maybe he wanted to try the Legend Cars track.
Maybe. Can you even drive that in iRacing?
Well, yeah, you can. I actually did a couple week 13 street stock races on the on the quarter-mile track that they had at Charlotte, and let me tell you, that was a catastrophe.
Well then, now we see going very slow into the lane here is CM Pennington, who stayed out the longest out of everyone, going for 39 laps, and actually looks like Ryan Traver, Dalton Geyer, and Mike Witt, along with Adam Young, trying their best to stay out. That was a very big incident there for Ryan Traver, and the drivers behind him will know that he's going to be slowing down now, try and get into the lane. Sumner goes around him. Okay, so that means that Dalton Geyer and Mike Witt will move through into the top two positions here. So how long will Geyer decide to go? He's going low here out of turns 1 and 2. Might be lining it up for a stop here. What will Mike Witt do in response? Looks like Witt's continuing to stay out, and very gentle entry into the lane there for Dalton Geyer. Enters alongside Baron Hilton, who is obviously carrying some issues there from his initial pit stop. But now Witt 10 seconds ahead of Adam Young, as now we see drivers like Skip Gandy, who's really fallen down the order now, down to 18th place, thanks to repairing that damage. Does Witt come into the lane? No, he is going super long here.
And that's got to be working to the detriment at this point. I mean, two tires are making up like a 2-second difference for these drivers at a pit. So he's losing ground fast, and looks like he may be coming in this time.
Yeah, he might have been hoping that that a caution would come out and he'd be able to gain some track position that way. But have a look at how much faster Richard Regan Jr. is on that fresh rubber. Regan with the effective lead of the race right now and battling with Daniel Knight for that. Witt's going to stay out again.
Well, at this point, I gotta say I'm questioning the decision right now. But maybe he knows something we don't. Maybe he's got hopes for a caution is what I'm thinking is probably the thought process there. But I gotta respect him for sticking it out.
Yeah, me too. This is the battle for effective third. Bradley Holly has worked out very nicely, but Daniel Knight gaining an awful lot there as he pushes Richard Regan up ahead. Meanwhile, it is Mark Kalin fighting with Thomas Sink for 6th overall as Adam Young comes into the pits just alongside these guys. It is a very close battle here between all of these guys, and vast majority of them are Waterback, with Denny Cervantes bringing up the rear of this battle for now. It looks like that phase of pit stops worked out very nicely for Colton Lane, trying his best to catch back up to this battle. We check out on screen the 62 and the 51, and it's going to be the 62 and the 48 now fighting for places here. Can Mark Kalin get by Thomas Sink?
Well, he's definitely going to give it the old college try there.
Doesn't quite work out, though, for Mark Kalin for the time being. Bradley Holly is starting to jet away from these guys, and we saw, especially in the early stages of the race, that Kalin was able to fight very well with Bradley Holly just alongside them. Mike Witt finally comes into the lane. 46 laps on that same set of tyres, and I think he is going to drop way down the order as a result of this. Fresh rubber, yes, they might be able to set him up for a good run in the middle stages. He might be able to make up places, but I tell you what, staying out as long as he did, I certainly wouldn't try that if I was in his position.
Yeah, I mean, he will have a tire advantage, but, you know, at the very least in the long run, he might end up a little bit better than he was sitting before this pit cycle, but I don't know. It's definitely not something I enjoy doing, is staying out that late.
Well, you can see that he comes out alongside these guys, but a lap down. Witt is still 3 places up from where he started, though, so it has been a profitable night so far. Now, this battle for the lead. The top 2 are Toyotas, and Daniel Knight has been putting the pressure on Richard Regan as they negotiate the lap truck of Dylan Schmidt and work themselves out nicely there. This is the phase of the race now with green flag pit stops where you really start to see lap traffic making a big difference to the result of this race, and we are in the last quarter of the race as well. So this is where big things can happen. This is where the big changes can end up eventuating.
And at this point, it's really going to come down, it doesn't matter how well your race has gone so far, you still got to bring her home. And you can see Richard Regan right there, thirsty for victory as he continues to lead this one.
Got his eyes forward in the Liquimoly machine. Richard Regan competing in eNASCAR Road to Pro as well in the first half of this year. So he's certainly got a lot of experience under his belt in that regard, and will be very used to running up the front here in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. But Daniel Knight is still looking for that elusive win. He's gotten podiums throughout the season, particularly high in my memory is Martinsville, where he was really pressuring the likes of Bradley Holly for second, and I think managed to get by him in the final stages. But now he is looking for that win here. Knight has shown that he has what it takes. Can he do it this time?
Well, he is keeping Regan honest at this point, and you can see up ahead there is some lap trucks as well, which could definitely throw a wrench in the process as Knight peeks to the inside there off of 4, not able to quite get the run, but he now gets the crossover, comes to the inside down the the front chute, and he'll be ahead as we head off into turn number 1.
Yeah, it looked like Richard Regan lifted out of that, so he's looking to try and draft here, I think, with Daniel Knight. Gives him the old bump draft down the back straight. So could be playing the long game here, Richard Regan. Perhaps making a move in the final few laps, of course assuming we stay green.
Well, he's definitely not letting Knight get too far away from him. Regan is just keeping him in his tracks here as we head down the back straight.
I think Regan wasn't too fussed at giving up the lead, honestly, because he knows that there's a big gap between himself and Bradley Holly, but he is going to move up the inside, coming onto the front stretch. Will he be able to get it done on Daniel Knight? Yeah, it looks like once again Knight, the driver in front, yielding. I think these guys are starting to work together here to try and keep themselves as far ahead of Bradley Holly as possible, make sure that he is not a threat. And you can see that Holly is running pretty even with those drivers up in front as Knight moves back into the lead. But we can see there that that little bit of side-by-side running that Regan and Knight did has cost them a 10th or so versus Holly.
Yeah, Regan, I'm surprised, struggling a little bit to get back by. He has kept really close to Knight here since giving up the lead, but hasn't been able to get back by, and actually looked a little, looks like the truck was a little upset coming off of turn 4.
Yeah, it did get a little loose as they come up to the lapped traffic. Regan a little bit harder into turns 1 and 2, but it seems that Skip Gandy, whose race has gone south very quickly, letting them go there in 22nd place. There's some battles for position going on up ahead of them as, oh, Ryan Traver re-entering the racetrack. They're going to have to make a decision here as the caution is out. The two leaders thread the needle. What on earth happened there to Ryan Traver?
Well, luckily we got the replay here to keep an eye on it. You can see Traver down, pulled onto the apron, and then just couldn't make it stick. And wow, you could see our leaders just having to traverse that one. Whew, that could have had major implications for the rest of this race.
Certainly could have. Traver ended up getting up into Dalton Geyer there. We'll focus on Dalton. He was running side by side with CM Pennington, but Traver re-entering the racetrack there gave him a huge tap in the left rear and sent him around, and you see that, oh, it almost went wrong very quickly for Knight and Regan. Amazing that no one else was involved in that one. I'm just perplexed as to what was happening there with Traver, because he was obviously going too quickly to stay on the apron, but going down there in the first place, I don't know what the deal was there.
Yeah, it was almost like he was trying to get out of the way. Like maybe there was maybe he was trying to let like lead lap trucks by, but it didn't seem to be the most thought out move.
Well, we see that there is thought being put into this for Daniel Knight, because he has stayed out while everyone else in the top 20 has come into the lane. This could make all the difference here. Richard Regan Jr. taking tyres down on the lane, but Daniel Knight thinks, well, you know, when we go green, there's only going to be about 6-7 laps left in the race. Maybe I'll be able to keep the lead as long as I can put on the defensive drive of my life. But now that he's 22 laps into his stint, Daniel Knight, I'm sure he'll be acutely aware of the pace difference here on fresh rubber. Everyone else coming out here, Kalen actually getting the place there on Richard Regan Jr. in the pits. Regan's now into third.
Yeah, Kalen seemed to get out of the pits very quickly. I was wondering if maybe he just did 2 tires.
Oh yes. Kalen, Cervantes, and Westerfield all took 2 tyres in that stop, so that has gained them quite a bit.
So we have 3 very different strategies at the front of the field here with less than 10 to go.
Couple more trucks coming into the lane, Adam Young and Eric Papineau, and they are out of the running here for the time being in 24th and 25th position. But now that the lap trucks, I don't know, man. This is going to be interesting because there's no lapped trucks in between the leader and the pace car. It looks like the trucks are going to be sent to the back of the line potentially. They might just send themselves through the pits at this stage, but this but the stage is certainly set for what should be an interesting final 7 laps here at Texas Motor Speedway. Looks like probably a 6-lap run to the finish, considering the lights are still on the pace car. And well, I don't know what to think here, Chris. There's a lot of potential for it to go crazy here on the restart. Daniel Knight making that big move to stay out.
Yeah, that's the peril of being the leader when it comes to a late race pit stop. A lot of people are going to do the exact opposite of what you do. So he got kind of left out to hang on the track. But he does have track position. And he's shown with that last little battle with Regan, he's pretty good at making that truck wide. He's going to be at a disadvantage with tires. But you also have Mark Kalin to the outside. Kalin only took 2 tires. So he has a little bit better sitting as far as that goes against Knight. But he may also play the role of being the spanner in the works for the 56.
And just before we go green, I'm thinking once again about that battle for 9th in the drivers' standings. Westerfield in the 35, one of the drivers to take 2 tyres on that stop. And Charles Sumner now down into 12th with Westerfield up in 7th. So there's going to be a big difference in point standings between those guys as Thomas Sink does a little bit of weaving there up on the high line. Now they're going to be gearing up for the start. And I got to say, Chris, if I'm Daniel Knight, I'm going as early as possible on the restart to try and get a gap.
Yeah, the restart here is going to be a huge factor in determining how this goes. If Knight can get a clean breakaway and get a little bit of breathing room between himself and the rest of the field, he's going to have a much better shot at it if as opposed to if everyone is able to telegraph what he does.
Well, they form up very close here between Knight and Kalin at the front, barely giving each other any room on this restart as the pace car will dive into the lane. Now, when does Daniel Knight decide to go? He goes very early, and it looks like at least Richard Regan knew what he was doing. Regan moves up into 2nd versus Mark Kalin as we start the 80th lap.
Well, I don't think that is what Daniel Knight wanted to see, was Regan get by Kalin that quick.
Look at the difference in pace there with Regan on those fresh tyres. He is undoubtedly going to take the lead from Knight at this stage. Knight's going to push him as hard as he can coming into turns 3 and 4. But Regan, with only a few laps now on these tyres, is going to be driving to the max. There's been an issue for Westerfield. He's come back into the lane, but we'll keep an eye on this lead battle here. Can Daniel Knight hold on to a podium position? Oh, he's lost a lot of pace in the middle of the corner. Washes up a little bit coming into turn 2. That allows Kalin up his inside. Kalin's going to get into 2nd. Meanwhile, Cervantes and Evans are side by side behind. This is going to be interesting here. Oh, that was a big slide there for Daniel Knight. Those tyres definitely crying out for some mercy now.
And you have Bradley Holly, our championship leader, stuck behind this hornet's nest of a battle between 2nd and 5th. And, oh no, Daniel Knight pushes Holly high. Holly looks like he just barely avoids the wall, but now we got a caution.
Yep, so Daniel Knight got tapped in the rear there by Holly. as he was trying to gain some pace, and Knight, with a lot of momentum lost, ended up getting rear-ended by Adam Zemke. We'll see it on the replay there. That is the incident between Knight and Holly, and Zemke, well, he'd already committed to the inside of the corner, not many places he could go, and Colton Lane gives Daniel Knight a big tap to boot.
Yeah, it's a shame. Daniel, we'll take another look at it here. Daniel Knight looked like he saved it after that big moment there. We got it nice and slowed down. Holly just clips the back end, sends him around, and he's got it just about saved. Unfortunately, he was running at a huge speed differential, came down right in front of the 57, and just got ran right over.
This is the onboard here from Adam Zemke. We'll check out what his perspective of this was like. He sees the incident happen right up ahead of him, right there, and Knight, oh man, there wasn't really much that Zemke could do. Knight was right in the middle of the road there. Which way do you go?
Yeah, Zemke had really no idea of where the 17 was going to end up. He picked a lane and unfortunately picked the wrong one.
Well, with there being only a couple of laps to go, it looks like green-white checkered is going to be the order of the day here. And this works out nicely for Richard Regan Jr. He's certainly made his way back into the lead, but crucially he has got Jeff Evans in between himself and Mark Kalin as Mike Witt is let by the pace car. There was a big difference made there. That contact between Holly and Knight did not work out well for Bradley Holly. He's back down to 7th place, so this could potentially be a big change in the points gap at the front of the standings. I think with the points format of this series, Holly might still have the lead, but at the very least, his gap is going to be diminished significantly with that position difference.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one as we head into the final race next week.
Oh, I'm excited. This is going to be fantastic. So, lights still on the pace car, and we'll see now how this green-white checkered works out. Daniel Knight, he threw the dice and figured staying out would be a good idea, but with this green-white checkered, he is now going to have 2 more race laps on this rapidly aging set of tires. And who's that going into the pits? That's Westerfield once again. Not too sure what's going on there for Westerfield. That's going to be pretty significant there in the battle for 9th. Sumner, crucially, is still out there and in the top 10. So Westerfield's going to need a miracle to get 9th in the standings coming into the final round. Sumner up there in 8th alongside Bradley Holly.
Well, yeah, it's definitely good news for Charles Sumner, but it's going to make that battle a little disappointing. It was yet another great battle we had set up for the final race.
Indeed. Well, either way, we are still going to be getting one big battle. In fact, I would say 2. Not only do we have to worry about the leaders, but we have to worry for 3rd on back in the top 10, because it is so close between the likes of Evans, Cervantes, Kalin, Sink as well. This is going to be fantastic. Still waiting here for the lights to go off so that we can get ready for a last little bit of green flag action. But Richard Regan Jr. is in the best position possible. He can get off to a good restart and he can protect here for the win.
And he's got fresh tires. He's got a couple trucks in between him and Holly that only took 2 tires, so it's possible they could hold him up. And you know, we still have a green-white checker left to sort this out, and you know, with those, anything can happen.
Lights off on the pace car then, and we'll get ready for this restart. Cervantes is looking at a podium position here. If he can make his way past Mark Kalin. Thomas Sink looking to try and justify his qualifying performance here. Still down 2 places from where he started as the number 48, but if things go right for him, then he can certainly get himself up into a podium place. Austin Hunter too, with an excellent run in the final few laps of this race. Now up into the top 6, up 5 places now from where he started. It's been a pretty profitable night there for the 3-1-2. Regan getting the final few weaves on here. And everyone trying to practice their starts behind. Everyone is raring to go here for the green-white checkered at Texas. Pace car in. Now Richard Regan assumes control of the field. Does he go early? Yes, he does. And that is a fantastic jump there from the number 56. And Evans trying to move down to the inside to protect from Kalen. Looks like he will be able to do that, at least for the time being. Car off a little bit in the tri-oval, but Richard Regan with the lead that he needs. Dives down to the inside, trying to break the draft, doesn't want anyone to catch up to him. It looks like the battle is definitely for second on back here, with Jeff Evans and Mark Kalen chasing each other. Cervantes losing a couple of places there. He is now behind Thomas Sink, but still up 5. And the final lap begins here at Texas. It's been a masterful drive here from Richard Regan Jr. and ended up capitalizing on not a good race for Bradley Holly. That is huge there. Doesn't look like we're going to be going to caution. Cervantes was involved in that one. There was a problem in the mid-phase of the top 10, but that's going to be far behind Richard Regan, who exits the final corner onto the front stretch and will take the win in round 9 at Texas.
Bradley Holly may have gotten a piece of that last lap wreck. He dropped well back. It looks like in the last couple laps, we've seen him score 12th.
Yeah, that was big there in the mid-phase of the field. And as you like to say, Chris, it was an absolute hornet's nest of a battle. So what happened here? It was contact between Cervantes and Austin Hunter. And it looks like Holly didn't have anywhere to go as Cervantes was spread-eagled across the track. Holly went high and into the wall. But Cervantes, oh my goodness, that was huge there. That was the number 14 that collected him.
Yeah, he took a few really good wallops in that one.
Oh, Denny Cervantes, he was doing so well up to that point as well. Well then, the victory celebrations begin once again for Richard Regan Jr. That's exactly the result he needed, and exactly the result that Bradley Holly needed to get for him to be well in contention for the driver's title going into the final round. We'll take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. When we come back, we'll have our race results and interviews with our podium.
Just barely catches it.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Well, that was a very exciting finish to round 9 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series at Texas Motor Speedway. It was Richard Regan Jr. who took the win from pole position despite a late challenge from Daniel Knight. Jeff Evans and Mark Kalin will complete the podium, with Thomas Sink in 4th and Austin Hunter finishing in the top 5. Very profitable night for him, as well as for Mike Richter and Nicholas Hunter, who finished 6th and 7th. Knight stayed out under the late race caution and ends up finishing 8th for his troubles. Charles Sumner finishes where he started in 9th, and Adam Shane makes it into the top 10.
And we'll see some major championship implications here with Zach Panzarella in 11th, but most importantly, Bradley Holly in 12th as we head into the final round next week. Stacy Hunter 13th, ahead of Ryan Traver, Adam Zemke, Skip Gandy, and CM Pennington. Last trucks on the lead lap, Cervantes, Austin, and Witt, all 1 lap down.
The same was true for Adam Young, Dylan Schmidt, and Colton Lane. It was a shame there for Lane. After qualifying in 6th, he had the potential for a great result today. Jim Westerfield and Eric Papineau come home 2 laps down, Dalton Geyer 3 laps down. Our retirements tonight, Barron Hilton and Nicholas Short, who it was really a shame to see. He was making his way up the field very nicely, but the crash he was involved in brought out the first caution. So now we bring in our race winner, Richard Regan Jr. Looks like, Richard, the decision to pit under that final caution was what sealed it for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a no-brainer really to come down pit road. We did 20-something laps on the tires, and tire wear is a pretty big amount here. It doesn't seem like it, but if you can get new tires, you can almost flat foot turns 1 and 2. So definitely no-brainer to pit and get tires right there.
Well, the late drama in that race under the green-white checkered means that your championship rival Bradley Holly finishes in 12th. That's definitely the result that you needed to close that points gap.
Yeah, definitely the break we needed. Earlier in the season, we had just some okay-ish luck. Honestly, when that last caution came out, well, not the last caution, but the caution that ended that green flag run that we had going on, I was like, oh man, here we go. And he just seemed to have pretty bad luck on the restarts. And so that was my advantage, I guess.
Well, we enter the final round of the season. What are your thoughts on the track?
Charlotte's super fun on the trucks. Definitely tough track to drive and be fast and consistent throughout the whole run. I didn't get a lot of practice this week because I've been super sick since last Thursday. But definitely hoping I'll be fine so I can get a lot of practice in for Charlotte.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Richard. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I got to give a huge thank you to Liquid Molly and Gearhead Coffee for coming on board for the remainder of the 2022 season. Also got to thank Jay-Z Photography, Phase 2 Chassis Works, everyone at PRL, and you guys at GSRC.
Richard Regan Jr. there with yet another win on his roster here in the final stages of the season. Next up, we got Jeff Evans, who finished second, stood by with Chris.
Well, Jeff, I don't want to say you stole one, but you definitely snuck up in there at the end and capped off a pretty solid run.
Yeah, that got fun at the end there. I learned my lesson during the green flag stops about cold tires and how loose you'll get with them. So remembered that on that second to last restart there, and I guess luckily for me, a couple people didn't.
I was going to say, it looked like the trucks, especially on cold tires, were a real handful out there today.
Yeah, no, the first lap or two, you had to be really careful with it, and they could step out on you pretty easily, and that was it.
Now with those last couple cautions, definitely was a game changer for this one. Can you tell us about the last portion of your race?
Yeah, I when we went into pit, I thought there was no way I wanted to take 2 tires. I'd been, even though we weren't really working the left sides too hard, I didn't trust myself enough to take 2, and I saw a couple people did, and was curious to see how it would play out, but knew if I was a bit more aggressive on the restarts there, I have a bit of an advantage, and thankfully that played out.
All right, Jeff. Anybody you'd like to thank that helped make tonight possible for you?
Definitely want to thank Phil over at Miracle Flow, and then obviously the Waterback guys. Just week in, week out, obviously we're putting in a bunch of time and bouncing notes off each other to make sure we all run well. And then of course the league sponsors, ASR, ButtKicker, and then you guys, of course.
All right, runner-up finisher tonight, Jeff Evans in the 51 machine. Back to you, Reese.
And I'm going to be having a chat to the number 62 of Mark Kalin, who came home for a podium. Mark, an excellent turnaround from the previous race at Kansas. It seems Texas Terry was right with you tonight.
He absolutely was. He was there, guided me every step of the way. It was a good, fun race.
Certainly was. It seemed that early phase of the race worked out really well for you. What did you think was the main key to that?
Honestly, just hanging out behind Richard and hanging out with Brad and those guys helped me out a lot. I ran a couple officials and I was killing my tires. And to be quite frank, if that first caution didn't come out when it did, I probably would have fallen off a few spots because my tires were starting to go. And so yeah, just hanging out with them really helped a lot, and I think that kind of paved the way for the rest of the race.
It certainly did. Well, it's another podium for you here in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. Who do you have to thank for it?
I got to thank the Waterback guys. They help me week in and week out with strategies, with technique and stuff like that. Yeah, I've got to thank my parents, my friends, my family, my fiance for their love and support and watching me race and, helping me out each week. And then I've got to thank all the organizers at the PRL for putting on these awesome series. And then, of course, you guys up at the broadcasting booth, you all put on a pretty good show, and I enjoy watching them after the race is over. And thank you all for taking the time to do that.
And we thank you, Mark Kalin, for joining us. We've got a couple more drivers to have a chat to here. The Hunter brothers in the booth with us. First up, Austin Hunter. Chris is going to have a chat to him about getting a top 5 finish.
Well, Austin, a pretty solid run for you. A little bit up and down today, but came home with the result. How's that feel?
It feels good. It was a pretty crazy night there. The pit stop didn't go too well for me, but that last caution really helped me out, and I was able to jump a few people and get up in the right spot for me.
And of course, it's got to feel like a pretty good pat on the back when you end up finishing a couple spots ahead of your brother.
Oh, definitely. Him and I have a long-standing rivalry. I'd like to say I taught him everything he knows, even though he's the older brother, but I don't know if I want to take credit for that.
I mean, you had a good run. I mean, I was right on you. And I'm happy to finish where I finished, right behind you. You had a great top 5.
It was the most positions gained for you, Nicholas. Starting out at 24th, did you expect a 7th place finish?
Not at all. I joined the session probably about 30 minutes prior, and so that's the only practice time I had. So during the race, I was figuring out the rhythm and figuring out what line I could stick to and to make it work. So it's just mostly, I guess, a war of attrition, cutting through that and avoiding the wrecks. Luckily, they were happening all behind me, except for that last one.
Yeah, that got a bit sus there in the last couple of laps. Some very close escapes indeed.
Yeah, it was dicey, but Austin and I, besides him finishing up higher than me, I've had some bad luck this season already. So when I crossed the line, my apps fritzed out, and I thought I had P4. So my wife was wondering what the heck am I doing making so much noise until the dust settled and I'm at P7. So, I mean, for me to finish the race where I did, I'll take it as a win.
Well, I guess, Nicholas, I'll leave it to you to thank the sponsors.
Of course, Precision Racing League, GSRC, you guys, it's already GSRC. The Waterback guys, because we've been great friends for years now, just working together and, giving heads up. And I'm blanking out on everything else. Usually I have like a script in front of me, but right now I got Mexican pizza from Taco Bell and a Baja Blast to celebrate with.
Well, we'll leave you to celebrate that, as well as Austin Hunter there in the 3-1-2 with that 5th place finish. Man, what a race it was, Chris, and really sets us up for a scintillating final round.
That's right. And of course, as Nicholas mentioned, the Mexican pizza's back at Taco Bell, so we have a lot to celebrate going into this final race of the season.
Well, before we go, we'd like to give one more thanks to the sponsors at the Precision Racing League. Advanced SimRacing. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And of course, NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp page for more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Chris, Joe, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, please check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Of course, the next race is the final round at Charlotte Motor Speedway. You can catch that at 8:50 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday night. And of course, next broadcast is going to be staying with the PRL for their Formula 3 and Ferrari Fixed Series at 8:25 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.